In this video, I'm going to go through the first page of the 4.4 to 4.5 Day 2 Personal Pop Quiz. And so we are looking at our first triangle here, and we are looking at triangle ISL. So I'm going to go triangle ISL. So that is the triangle, and I need to know what triangle that's congruent to. And so when I repeat that pattern, I go from here, from I to N to O, and so that is going to be triangle INO. If I look at the reasoning behind that, I can see that I have an angle to an angle, I have a side to a side, and then I would have an angle to an angle because of the vertical angles there, and so therefore the reasoning here is angle, side, angle. And now we're going to look and see if we locate segment LS right here, and if we pick out its corresponding part would be right here. And so we would say that that segment LS corresponds to and is congruent to segment ON. And our reason for that is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And so we can abbreviate that CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. All right, if we look at our next one here, we are looking at triangle ERA. So I'm going to go for triangle ERA, and that's going to be congruent to triangle ERB. And if I look at what I have here, I could see that I have a side to a side, I have a right angle to a right angle, and then I know that I would have this side to itself by the reflexive property, and so therefore those two triangles are going to be congruent by side, angle, side. Now, if I look to see where segment BE is located, segment BE is right here. And so if I match that up with its corresponding part, would be right here. And so that is going to be segment AE. And segment BE is going to be congruent to segment AE because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. All right, moving along, if we look at number 3, we have triangle WER, and we really have to make sure how we're moving here. Notice that I started with the W, and that W is the same as the U. And then I went to E, which would be same as the F. So I'm going to move from U to F. And then we went to the R, which would be the same as the N. So, needed to put my triangle notation in there. So we're going to say that triangle WER is congruent to triangle UFN. And if we look at our reasoning behind that, we could see that we have an angle to an angle, angle to an angle, and a side to a side. And so therefore that is going to be by angle, side, angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. If we then look at angle R, so angle R is going to correspond here with angle N, and angle R is congruent to angle N, and that is because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. All right, if we take a look at the next triangle here, number 4, we're looking at triangle ZEA. So triangle ZEA. And so we're looking to make that to triangle BER. And I have to know something about if I have these angles right here, those two base angles that are congruent, then what I know is that this side must be congruent to this side. And then what happens is that I have a side, I have another side, and I have a third side. And so therefore those two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. If I look at angle ZAE, angle ZAE would be the angle right here, then that is going to be congruent to angle BRE right here. And that's corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay. If we look at the next 3, we're going to recall all definitions can be written as biconditional statements. And so if we look at number 5, we want to make sure that we're really paying attention to what is given to us, because then based on that given information, we're going to be able to make a statement and support it with a reason. So if we look at the first thing here, A is the midpoint of ST, segment ST. If we are told that A is the midpoint of segment ST, then what we would know is that segment SA would be congruent to segment TA. So if A is the midpoint, then we would know that this would have to be congruent to this. Okay? Now, and the reason would be the definition of a midpoint. If we were given that same figure right here, and we were told that if segment SA is congruent to segment TA, then what we should know is that A is the midpoint of segment ST. What's our reason? By definition of a midpoint. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Our definition is biconditional statements. So let's look at our next one here. Number 6, we are told that if segment GA bisects segment ST, then what we would know is that A is the midpoint of segment ST. And the reason we would know that is the definition of a segment bisector. Now, if we kind of turn that around and say that A is the midpoint of ST, then what we would know is that segment GA bisects segment ST. And our last one, number 7, if we are told that segment GA is a bisector of angle SGT, then what we would know is that angle 1 is going to be congruent to angle 2. And the reason why that is definition of an angle bisector. If we turn that around and we are told that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, then what we know is that segment GA bisects angle SGT. And our Y, definition of an angle bisector. Okay. Knowing these definitions, being able to look at the figure, being able to look at the given information that corresponds with the figure, pull out the statement and the reason is going to be able to help us with those longer proofs. Now we'll pick up with the second part of this personal pop quiz in a different video.